It's kind of crazy to think AI can write poems now, music, even design buildings.
Yeah,
It's generative AI, and it's really shaking things up, especially in Southeast Asia.
definitely.
Speaking of which, you sent over some really interesting stuff on how ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, is dealing with this whole AI thing.
Yeah.
So let's dive in and see how they're building a responsible and,
Mhm.
thriving generative AI ecosystem.
It's a really smart approach. They see the huge potential of AI for the economy,
Right.
but they're not ignoring the possible downsides either.
Yeah.
What's interesting is they're not shying away from the challenges,
Yeah.
but they're actually making a plan for responsible innovation.
Okay, that makes sense. But before we go too deep,
Sure.
let's make sure we're all on the same page. We
Yeah.
hear AI all the time,
Right.
but what makes this generative AI different?
Yeah, it can get confusing.
Yeah.
Think about the AI that recommends like your next favorite song
Yeah.
or helps you find the fastest way home. That's like traditional AI, right?
Yeah.
Good at analyzing data and making predictions.
Okay.
Generative AI, though it's like the artist of the AI world.
Hmm.
It takes what it learns from data and makes something totally new. Music, text, images, even code.
So that's how we get those AI pictures that look so real or articles that seem like a person wrote them.
Exactly.
I have to admit, sometimes it's hard to tell what's real and what's made by AI these days.
Absolutely, and that's just the beginning.
Wow.
We're seeing it used to speed up drug discovery, design new materials, even create realistic synthetic voices.
It's incredible.
It's touching almost every industry you can think of.
Yeah.
But that's where those potential problems come in too.
Right. The ASEAN report mentions 6 main risks they're watching, things like actual errors, deepfakes, and even AI amplifying societal biases.
Yes,
That's a pretty serious list of worries.
it is, and they're taking it very seriously.
Yeah.
They know if AI is trained on biased data,
Uh-huh.
it's likely to create biased outputs.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine an AI hiring tool trained on data where most leaders are men. It might unfairly pick male candidates, even if they're not the most qualified.
That's a perfect example of how this could make existing inequalities worse.
Right.
So what can be done to reduce these risks?
One important step is being really careful about the data used to train AI models.
Hmm.
We need to make sure it's diverse representative and doesn't have harmful biases. It's also crucial to carefully check the AI's output for bias,
Right.
using tools and techniques that can find and flag potential issues.
So like a quality control check for fairness.
Exactly.
But even with those safeguards, it seems like there's still a lot of room for misuse, especially with something as powerful as generative AI.
You're absolutely right. The potential for misuse is a big concern. Think about misinformation and deepfakes. With
Yeah.
generative AI making fake news articles or manipulating videos to make people say or do things they never did is becoming easier.
Right.
And in a world where information spreads so quickly, that's a dangerous combination.
That's a scary thought. What are some solutions being explored to fight the spread of misinformation? Yeah.
Especially when it comes to these super realistic deepfakes.
There are a few promising things being explored. One is developing technology that can help verify the authenticity of content. Think of it like a digital fingerprint that can prove if a photo or video has been messed with.
Okay.
Techniques like digital watermarking and cryptographic provenance are being made for this very purpose.
So it's like a trail of breadcrumbs for digital media.
Right.
If something seems off, you can trace it back to its origin and see if it's been changed.
Exactly. There are also AI-powered detection systems being developed to spot potential fakes
Okay.
based on patterns and things that don't look right.
Hmm.
But technology alone isn't enough.
True. We also need to help people be more discerning about the information they see online.
Absolutely. We need to give people the tools and knowledge to tell truth from lies in this increasingly complex digital world.
Right.
This means promoting media literacy, supporting fact-checking initiatives, and encouraging social media platforms to implement responsible content moderation policies. It sounds like a multi-pronged approach is needed.
Yeah.
But with all this talk about risks and safeguards, it's easy to forget that generative AI also has the potential to do a lot of good.
And it does.
Yeah.
The ASEAN report highlights some inspiring examples of how generative AI is already making a positive impact in the region.
Okay.
A great place to start is Vietnam. They were facing a common problem.
Mm-hmm.
The main AI models were trained on English text,
Yeah.
and they struggled with the nuances of the Vietnamese language.
So if you wanted to use AI for something like translating Vietnamese literature, you were out of luck.
Pretty much. But a company called VinAI stepped up and created PhoGPT, the first open-source large language model made specifically for the Vietnamese language.
Faux GPT. I love it. What makes it so special?
Well, first, it was trained on a huge amount of Vietnamese text, everything from Wikipedia entries and legal documents to news articles and literature.
Wow.
This allowed Faux GPT to achieve a level of fluency and accuracy that just wasn't possible with those Western-centric models.
So it's not just about speaking the language, it's about understanding the culture and context.
You got it. And here's where it gets really interesting. Faux GPT is open source,
Okay.
meaning the underlying code is freely available for anyone to use, modify, and share.
It's like giving away the secret recipe.
Right.
But how does that benefit Vietnam?
Think about it like this, researchers. Researchers and smaller companies who might not have the resources to build their own AI can now use Faux GPT to build applications specifically for Vietnamese culture and needs.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this fits with ASEAN's goal of creating a thriving AI ecosystem in the region. But Vietnam isn't the only one making waves in this area, right?
Not at all. AI. Singapore, the
Oh.
country's national AI program, has developed a model called Sea Lion.
Sea Lion.
It stands for Southeast Asian Languages in One Network,
Okay.
and it's directly tackling the challenge of Southeast Asia's linguistic diversity.
So instead of creating separate models for each language, they're building one supermodel that can handle them all.
That's the idea. Sea Lion supports a wide range of Southeast Asian languages, including some that are often overlooked by global AI models. They're even working to include major regional dialects.
Wow, that's ambitious. What's driving this goal?
It's all about making AI truly relevant to local communities. Imagine having AI tools that can understand and communicate in the languages and dialects people use every day.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
I can see how that would be a game changer, especially in a region as diverse as Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
But I'm also curious about how ASEAN is trying to manage the possible downsides of this technology. They've laid out the risks, highlighted some successes, but what concrete steps are being taken?
That's a great question, and it's what makes this whole conversation so fascinating.
Yeah.
There are some really innovative solutions emerging, and we'll dive into those next.
It really is amazing to see how ASEAN's balancing this excitement about the new technology and being aware of the potential problems. And from what you're saying, they're not just sitting back and crossing their fingers, they're actually working on solutions.
Exactly, and they're not alone.
Yeah.
We're seeing some really creative solutions coming from all sorts of organizations around the world. One example that stood out to me in the ASEAN report is Accenture's Responsible AI program.
Accenture, the big consulting firm.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's interesting. What's their approach?
Well, they put together a really complete internal program that guides how they develop and use AI.
Okay.
Not just for themselves, but for their clients too.
Uh-huh.
It's all based on fairness, transparency, and human-centered design.
So it's more than just rules, it's part of their whole process.
Exactly. For every AI project they do, they start with a thorough risk assessment.
Interesting.
Trying to think about the ethical and societal impacts before they even start building anything.
That's smart. It's kind of like a preventative medicine for AI.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they have really strong testing procedures.
Right.
To make sure the AI systems are doing what they're supposed to, and no biases are sneaking in.
So they're proactive and always keeping an eye on things.
Yes. And they're also really committed to educating their employees. They have mandatory training programs to make sure everyone understands the principles of responsible AI.
Sounds like they're really practicing what they preach.
They are. And they're even using AI to manage their AI ethics.
Wait, they're using AI to make sure AI is being used ethically?
Yeah.
That's mind-blowing. How does that even work?
They created a generative AI chatbot that can answer questions about their responsible AI policies.
So if someone has a question about, say, bias detection or data privacy, they can just ask the chatbot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a really clever way to make sure everyone can easily get the information they need.
I'm seeing a pattern here. It seems like many of these solutions involve collaboration and sharing knowledge.
You're absolutely right. Another great example of that is Project Moonshot,
Project Moonshot.
which is run by the AI Verify Foundation based in Singapore.
Sounds ambitious. What is it working on?
They're tackling the challenge of testing and evaluating these huge language models.
Okay.
And one of the hardest parts of ensuring responsible AI is testing these systems.
Right.
They're often so complex, it's incredibly difficult to predict how they'll actually behave in the real world.
So how do you even begin to test something like that?
That's what Project Moonshot is trying to solve. They've developed an open source toolkit
Okay.
that makes testing easier for organizations.
Interesting.
It helps them assess the safety, fairness, and overall performance of their AI models.
So they're giving developers the tools to get it right from the beginning.
Exactly. And they've designed the toolkit to be user-friendly, even for people who aren't AI experts.
That's so important. We need to make responsible AI accessible to everyone, not just the computer science PhDs.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And what's really cool about Project Moonshot is that it's always evolving.
Oh, wow.
They're constantly adding new benchmarks, languages, and capabilities,
Mm.
all thanks to a global community of developers who contribute to the project.
So it's truly a team effort.
It is, and the fact that it's open source means anyone can use it and contribute to it and benefit from it.
Right.
It's a fantastic example of how we can work together to build a more trustworthy AI ecosystem.
Hearing about these initiatives makes me feel optimistic.
Yeah.
It's easy to get bogged down in all the potential risks,
Uh-huh.
but it's really encouraging to see people taking action and coming up with solutions.
I agree. We're definitely moving from just talking about the problems to actually doing something about them.
Right.
And it's important to remember that this is an ongoing thing. As AI keeps developing,
Yeah.
there will always be new challenges and unexpected consequences.
Of course.
The key is to stay engaged, keep learning,
Uh-huh.
and work together to ensure this powerful technology benefits humanity.
You know, for all the talk about risks, we haven't really touched on the potential for generative AI to do good.
That's true.
The ANN report did highlight a few examples, right?
It did. One area where we're seeing a lot of exciting progress is in education. Imagine having personalized learning tailored to each student's needs and learning style.
That would be revolutionary for so many students, especially those who struggle in a typical classroom.
Exactly. Generative AI can create interactive learning materials, provide real-time feedback,
Wow.
and even come up with customized study plans.
That's amazing.
It has the potential to make education more engaging, effective, and accessible to everyone.
That's a powerful vision. What about other areas? Where else is generative AI showing promise?
Healthcare is another big one. Imagine using AI to analyze medical images, help with diagnosis, and even develop new treatments.
So it's like giving doctors and researchers a superpower.
You could say that. It can also personalize healthcare by giving patients customized information and support based on their medical history and needs.
All this talk about AI transforming healthcare and education is exciting.
Yeah.
But I also wonder about the potential impact on jobs. If AI can automate so many things, what does that mean for the future of work?
That's a valid question, and it's one that a lot of people are asking.
Yeah.
It's true that generative AI could automate certain jobs, especially those that involve repetitive or rule-based tasks.
So what happens to the people whose jobs are replaced? Does everyone need to become a programmer or AI expert to stay employed?
It's not quite that simple. Some experts believe that AI will actually create more jobs than it gets rid of.
Really?
As new industries and opportunities come up, think about all the jobs that didn't exist before the internet.
That's true.
So it's not just about replacing jobs, it's about changing the nature of work itself.
So we need to adapt and learn new skills, but it's not an all-or-nothing situation.
Right.
There will still be a need for things that only humans can do.
Exactly. And that's where education and training become crucial.
Hmm.
We need to make sure everyone has the chance to learn the skills they need to succeed in a world powered by AI.
Okay.
This means governments, schools, and businesses all need to commit to retraining programs and create ways for people to move into new roles.
It sounds like preparing for the future of work is a shared responsibility.
It is. We can't just leave it up to individuals to figure it out on their own.
And this is where the idea of human-centered AI really comes into play, right?
Exactly. It's not about letting technology control the future. It's about using it to help people and create a more just and fair society.
That's a good point. It's about finding that sweet spot.
Yes.
Embracing the possibilities of AI while making sure it serves us, not the other way around.
Right.
That seems to be a recurring theme in the ASEAN report.
It is. And it's not just ASEAN that's thinking this way.
Okay.
We're seeing AI ethics councils and advisory boards popping up all over the world.
What do those councils do? Are they like watchdogs for the AI industry?
They're more like guides,
Mm.
bringing together experts from all sorts of fields: technology, ethics, law, social sciences. Give advice on developing and using AI responsibly. They're like a moral compass for the industry.
So they're helping to figure out the ethical gray areas that inevitably come up with a technology as powerful as AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're wrestling with some really tough questions.
Yeah.
What are the limits of AI?
Yeah.
How do we ensure fairness and accountability? What are the possible social and economic effects?
That's a lot.
They're really thinking deeply about these issues and trying to develop guidelines, frameworks, and best practices to shape how AI is developed and used.
It's like having a group of wise elders helping us make sense of this rapidly changing world.
I like that.
It's good to know those conversations are happening.
It is, and these councils are doing more than just talking.
Huh?
They're actually producing real-world results.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing a vital role in making sure AI serves humanity, not the other way around.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah, we have.
From the technical details of how generative AI works to the risks and opportunities, it's been quite a journey.
It has. And I think this is a good place to take a break.
Okay.
When we come back to the last part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to shift the focus to you, our listener, and explore how all of this connects to your life and the choices you face in this quickly changing world.
You know, we've been talking about some pretty complex stuff with this generative AI and how it's impacting Southeast Asia. It's amazing to think about how this technology is changing so fast.
It really is an exciting time to be watching this field.
Yeah.
We've gone from AI that could barely tell a cat from a dog to AI that can compose music and write poetry.
It's wild.
And it's not just happening in Silicon Valley. As we've seen, Southeast Asia is becoming a real center for innovation in generative AI.
And speaking of Southeast Asia, you sent over some interesting things about how it's already being used in the region. What I found really striking was the story about that AI-powered platform helping farmers in Indonesia.
Oh, you mean the one that analyzes satellite images and weather data?
Yeah.
To give farmers recommendations on when to plant, fertilize, and harvest?
Exactly.
That's a great example of how AI could be used to tackle real-world problems and make life better for people.
It shows that AI isn't just some futuristic idea, it's already making a real difference. But as we talked about, there are real concerns about the possible downsides of this technology.
Of course.
How do we balance the excitement for innovation with the need for responsible development?
That's the big question, and I don't think there's an easy answer.
Yeah.
It's going to take ongoing conversations between policymakers, researchers, business leaders, and everyday people.
Right.
We need to be talking about AI ethics, the impact on jobs and the economy, and what steps we can take to minimize risks.
You know, listening to you talk about all this, I'm realizing this isn't just a conversation for tech experts. This is something that affects everyone.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by how quickly technology is changing.
Yeah.
But we have to remember we have a say in how these technologies are developed and used.
Exactly.
We need to be asking questions,
Yeah.
joining these conversations, and making sure our voices are heard.
And that brings me to you, our listener.
Yes.
As we wrap up this deep dive into generative AI, I'm curious what stood out to you. What are you excited about or worried about when it comes to this technology? What kind of future do you see for yourself and your community in an AI-powered world?
We've covered a lot today, from the technical side of generative AI
Right?
to the ethical challenges and potential solutions. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
But I think one of the main takeaways is that we have a choice. We have the power to shape the future of AI
I like that.
and make sure it's used for good.
Yeah.
It's not about being scared of the technology.
Right.
It's about understanding what it can do and being thoughtful about how we bring it into our lives.
It's about being informed, asking questions, and making deliberate choices about how we use this powerful tool.
Exactly.
Well, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of generative AI in Southeast Asia.
It's been great.
It's been a fascinating conversation, and I hope it's given you some new things to think about.
I hope so too. It's been a pleasure diving into this with you.
Likewise. Until next time.